If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
I promise you, this is not a political podcast.
Jump from the deep end of the pool, set up the mood. Paranoi Radio, set up the mood. Paranoi Radio, set up the mood. Paranoi Radio, set up the mood. 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 Talking about how you use your brain and talking positivity and make and attract positive things to your body. Guys, this is the best show with the best content for the best listeners. Testicles 1, 2, testicles. Welcome back to Paranoi Radio Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I am Trebles Garcia. I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to be here today, and I want to thank every single one of you for allowing me to enter your space. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do not forget that the most important thing that you could do for the show today is word of mouth. Check us out at ParanoidRadio.com. Check out the affiliations with Flavors of the Forest. Check out also my best friend out there, Drewski from Cryptid Warfare Operations. If you guys have been paranormally activated or have been issues with chupacabras eating your chickens, we have a specific unit that takes care of all those animals and problems outside of your home. Make sure you check them out. Also, live free and make your kids healthy again with Ali Christine. She will give you the tools that you need to live parasitic free. Now, if you guys feel down and if you guys feel like you guys need someone to speak to, don't off yourself. Go to ParanoidRadio.com, and there's a button there that takes you to a 24/7 lifeline. You can speak with anybody right now and then share your emotions, share what you're feeling. Instead of offing yourself, think about your kids and contact someone. Make sure you check us out at ParanoidRadio.com. Drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. That allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's jump in from the deep end of the pool and set the freaking mood. Please give a warm welcome to the CEO of Born Superhuman, Dan Metcalfe. Did I chop that up? Metcalfe, right?
It's Metcalfe, but you know what? You're speaking so fast. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with you. Do I have to speak this fast? It's fantastic.
It's just my energy. I have to do it. It's my persona. And I don't know. I think after I stopped using drugs, my brain stayed on that speed.
Fantastic.
It's amazing. Yo, thank you again for reaching out. I'm giving you the time of the day. I'm giving you my platform. I think your story is amazing, phenomenal. Where can people find you?
So you can go to bornsuperhuman.com. That is where you'll find the 7 pillars for natural health. And I'm a huge fan of what you've gone through in here, Trebles. It's incredible. The reason we're born superhuman is because we can overcome anything provided we get away from the societal contract that we signed as a child growing up, believing that everybody was in there for us. And yet we were put into these boxes that fit society. When we discover our own power, our own ability, and take care of ourselves, it's incredible what we can achieve, both as an individual, but with our community as well.
Powerful words, man. And I think I know why you think I speak fast. Because I speak lazy English. You have perfect pronunciation. Let me just tell you that. The whole stuff.
Yeah, that was part of being brought up over, obviously, in England. I'm from the south of England. And I was very fortunate. I was in show business for many years. I went from professional athletes into show business. I did 8 years with the Royal Marine Cadets, meant to go into the Marines, and then switched over, and believe it or not, I became a ballet dancer, jazz, tap, modern. It was like the biggest change, that telling my father, who had also been in the parachute regiment, was a man's man, that I was going to become a dancer, was a pretty tough situation. But I knew that if it didn't work out, I could go back into the Marines. So it was a fascinating change that really brought down, we can be anything. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah, this is what we're here for.
Okay, so the night before I started theatre school, and this was just outside London, I had never been to a show before. My father, I didn't know, liked theatre. So he took me to see the show. And he told me the 8 words at the end that changed my life. That when I speak on the circuit, when I'm out doing stuff, these are the 8 words that drive people. At the end of the show, he said, "What do you think?" And I was like, that show was unbelievable. It was a show by Andrew Lloyd Webber, who did Phantom of the Opera, Cats, Jesus Christ Superstar, Joseph's Technicolor Dreamscope, uh, Starlight Express, so many different shows. Probably the greatest theatre composer of all time on Broadway, West End. And he said, what do you think? I said, that was incredible. It was amazing. These people were like demigods. Here they were, skating, singing, dancing, acting, and empowering and impacting the audience. And he said, one day you'll be in that show. And I went, no, I'll never be good enough. And the 8 words he said to me that changed my life were, somebody has to do it. Why not you? Let me say that again. Somebody has to do it. Why not you? The question is really your own answer. A year and a half after studying, I was in that show. And then I went on to play the lead. I toured the world. I toured Japan and over in Germany, and then got brought over here in America to open in Las Vegas. And absolutely incredible, because we commit to where we want to go. The work that we need to do often gets allayed by other people that don't want us to succeed. They want to keep us where they're comfortable. So if somebody says to you, oh, why are you doing that, Trebles? You don't need to do that. Come on, let's go have some fun. It's because you'll expose them to not being everything they should be. And if you dig in to who you really are and those dreams we had as kids, I know you've got kids, they're still living dreams because they haven't been taken away yet. If we encourage people to take mindset into the brain, it's incredible what we'll finally come out with.
Wow. I have to share something with you. It clicked. There's not a lot of Latinos in LA doing what I do, especially in this category, especially with all the gatekeepers. There's not many of us. And it's demoralizing at times where I dedicate so much. I bleed, I sweat, eat, breathe, poop, everything, Paranoi Radio. And it's hard sometimes when I don't get the reaction after 5 years in the game, not getting at least the recognition that I know I deserve. And your words just hit me again, just like that word that whispers behind me. Someone's got to do it. Why not me? Right? And I wake up and I was like, okay, what's the next project? Okay. And then boom, your email comes in. And then boom, someone else's email comes in. So it just starts coming, like you start attracting that, right? It's a very powerful phrase, man. Very powerful phrase.
Yeah, congratulations again. Look, I have a saying, why be a victim when you can be a hero? We all have challenges, everyone, but not everyone is brave enough to take the step. It's easier to sit where everybody else is because misery loves company, but we don't see it as misery because we've never stepped outside and seen what's greater. But there's another saying I'd love to share with you. Before every great breakthrough is a greater breakdown. Before every great breakthrough is a greater breakdown, because that's where most people stop. Look, every level has its own devil. We've all played video games and sat there and got a new game. It's level 1. We're playing and we can't get through level 1. We finally get to the top, and then there's that hardest part before we get to level 2, and we lose and we keep losing. Then we figure it out and we go, oh, you know what? I got through it. Now I get to level 2. We go through level 2. It's a little harder. Then you get to the end of level 2. Now there's that devil again. Then you get to level 3 and then you lose your lives and you got to go back to level 1. Level 1 suddenly seems easy. You're like, God, I wish I could just start straight at level 3. And that's why the gaming community and the game creators change where you could go and start again, because people were getting frustrated going back to level 1. Well, now think of life. Life is a game. As we go to the next level, it's going to be harder. And sometimes we think of dropping back to level 1 and going, okay, I'm just comfortable here. But then we get bored because we've experienced more. And that's where everything that happens to us in life, you can either learn from or you can lose from. One or the other. But you can never lose if you continue to learn.
I have that. That reminds me of that saying that says, if, let's say you're down, and if you shoot for something, even though you think you're going to fail, if you shoot for something, you're securing 100%. If you don't take that shot, you're securing 100% fail. But if you take that shot, you never know where it might land. I know I butchered it. guys, hashtag look it up. It's something like that. But you guys, you get my point. So yeah, man. I want to know something about your life, if you don't mind sharing. On your email, you mentioned that you went from being an athletic person, the athletic man, to being paralyzed.
Yeah.
How'd you get over that?
So it was actually during a show, in the show that I'd gone to see with my father, and that was about 5-6 years after I'd been in the show, and I'd gone on to other shows and then come back and change. This was in Las Vegas. And there's a stunt in the show that I'd injured myself on 5 times prior because it wasn't built correctly for the crash. And the 6th time I hit my head against the wall at about 30 miles an hour, and I heard this crack in my neck, and I was paralyzed. What was craziest is when people say, well, how did you get over the paralysis? When the doctors told me you were going to be disabled for life. Hearing those words, I felt immediately, because I'm an athlete, right? I'm a competitor. You don't know me. But I knew at that moment I couldn't move. So it was really, how am I going to do that? But that night when I went to bed in the dark room, I lost sight in my right eye. And I didn't want to close my left eye because I didn't know if I'd wake up the next day completely blind for life or if I'd be able to see again. And that was more scary than the paralysis, because when I could see, I felt I could go. But I'd never not seen before in my life. And the thought of being in darkness the rest of my life, I didn't want to close. Eventually, I did fall asleep. And luckily, the swelling inside my brain that had compressed the optical nerve in my right eye had released. And so I woke up and I had a little bit blurry vision, but I could see again. And that made me realize we are born to heal. We're born superhuman. And I didn't understand it fully at that time because I hadn't gone through, I've trained over 70,000 people to this day with mindset and health. But it was slow. It took me more than 6 months. I'd have to learn to move my fingers, to put a nut on a screw. I had to leave the show, obviously, and they would refuse to continue to pay me till I signed disability for the rest of my life. So I said, I'm not doing that. I said, I'm going to fight back. So I sued them, not for money. I never got a penny for the injury. I sued them for the right to see my own doctors because I knew there was more than what they were telling me because it was cheaper.
Whoa.
It was cheaper to disable me than it was to try and fix me. So I went on from there, very quickly became a head coach on the Olympic program, got back to racing the Ironman a couple of years later once I got back, opened up my own sports performance gym in Los Angeles for professional athletes, high-performing college athletes, and those people that dreamt of being better. And then one day I was out on a bike ride because I was racing the Ironman. Then I was really good on the bike, so I started racing on bikes. And I went through a guard-gated community at 22 miles an hour, and the security guard brought the metal gate down on my head at 22 miles an hour. I was knocked unconscious immediately. I was out for about 3 minutes. I had a secondary impact when I hit the ground because I was already frozen in the air. I've got the video. I had no idea, but seeing the security guard video, part of my brain died. I had to learn to talk again properly. I had to learn to function. I had to learn to stay awake because my brain would just shut down. For example, I'd be talking to you and I'd freeze. I didn't know. People would be like, do you realize what just happened? They said, you haven't spoken in a minute and a half. But I had no idea. It's like my brain had to learn to go. So that was really when I got into mindset, brain, and full body health that shouldn't cost us anything. We're living in a society that forces us to pay for health and puts us onto drugs to keep us under their control. And the craziest thing right now, Trebles, is they're targeting children. And the reason they're targeting children with sickness is because if someone gets sick at 60 and they've got a lifespan of, let's just say 75, because it's a little more for women and a little less for men, you've got a 15-year client. If you can target a 6-year-old that now has a 70-year lifespan because they're immediately on drugs, they got the Adderall, they got the ADHD, they got the asthma, they've got all the obesity that's coming in from the bad food we're eating. Now, look at the money they're going to generate. And we know parents will pay anything for their kids before they'll do it for themselves. So you got a guaranteed customer.
Whoa. Yeah, absolutely. And this is just talking for myself here. They said that I was pre-diabetic. How am I pre-diabetic? I come from an era where it's either black or white. Either I am or I'm not. Stop saying I'm pre-diabetic. And I spoke with Janet from Deplorable Nation. She's my pod mom. She's an amazing. I got to get you guys connected. You guys would hit it off. Amazing. She said that what they do is they lower the statistics and how they level you up, how they measure the sugar levels. Then she goes, did you fast? Did they tell you not to come with anything in your stomach? Like, no. Well, then there it is. And then right away, they start prescribing me Ozempic. I was on Ozempic for like 6 months. I lost a lot of weight. My face got droopy. And I was like, that's not me. It's not helping me. I started getting shivers. I started feeling different. My body felt different. So just as an adult, I can feel what these things are, things, like everything is happening around me and what it's doing to my soul, to my body. And yeah, I completely agree with you.
Well, the Ozempic, we know, deals with the GLP-1, and what that does is messaging through to the brain of what we need. But what they don't tell people is about 80% of your weight loss is actually muscle. So even though you're losing weight, you're not losing the fat weight, you're losing body weight. So your fat percentage actually goes up over time, because if you're losing muscle and losing less fat, you've dropped the weight, because we're told, look at the scale, look at the numbers on the scale. But then people become unhealthier. We know muscle mass, muscle strength is critical to longevity. So then if you're not working out, and we're talking about not working out light, just going for what we're talking about, building muscle, which is really hard to do when you haven't been doing it, you're going down with Ozempic over a period of time. But we get excited, right? Emotionally, look, I'm dropping weight, I'm feeling good. Then you get addicted to it. So what do they have? They have another client.
Wow. I saw something on your Instagram account that has to do a lot with mentality. And not only mentality, but how your mind and your brain works. Can you please break that down? And this is connecting back. It's going to go full loop, full go circle back into your house, to your life, to your life story. What is the difference between the mind and the brain?
Yeah, great question. The brain is the computer. It's created for one thing, and that's to keep us alive. How it does it is to keep us safe. The brain is actually lazy. The brain won't say, get up and go and work out. The brain won't go, let's go to work. The brain will activate when we're told to do something from our mindset. So if you look at it, the brain has the autonomic system. That's the one that when we're born takes care of the heartbeat, that sometimes needs a team around it to get going as a baby, or we have a fibrillator or something to jumpstart it again. We also then have our body temperature, we have our blood pressure, things that we don't think about that the body takes care of. But the rest of the brain will only function when it's given information. Think of a computer. You could have a crazy motherboard, you can have all the different speeds, but if there's no program put into it, it won't work. The potential is there, but the actual is never going to happen. So the information we give into the brain comes from our visual, our information, our environment, our society, that then actually creates our thought process. So when a baby's born, and you've seen a brain, right? How it has all the wrinkles and different bits in it. A baby's brain is completely flat. We have about 86 billion brain cells, neurons in our brain as adults. We have almost that many in a baby as soon as it's born. What it doesn't have is we have these different wirings, the synapse of information that says this is how I'm going to communicate a thought and send it through. So even something as simple as a baby learning to walk, it's visually seen, adults walking, or we have genes, epigenetics, which is our ancestors that have been doing what we're doing. And so we have a propensity to want to do that. But then the baby tries to roll over, it's trying to stand up, the muscles are getting stronger just from trying, and then eventually it takes its first step. We all go, yeah, you've had that with your kids, right? They take their first, and you're cheering, and that cheering says to the brain, oh, it's good, I should keep doing this. Whereas if you beat a baby down every time it stood up, eventually it wouldn't stand up. So the result comes from the environment. Over time, all those messaging, those neurons that fire together to give us action, to learn how to speak, to be able to emote with people, to have addictions, these come from the wiring of the brain from our thought process. If we can get our thought process right, the brain can rewire. I know you're going through this every single day, right? You have decisions to make, but your mindset determines whether you do it or whether you don't on both sides. The brain has no control over that because the brain knows it's good for me or it's not. But it won't control it because it also has its own need to feel satisfied within your own environment.
Oh man, you hit it where it hurts. I was just having a conversation with the Hopeaholics podcast, huge podcast, and they speak on situations where, you know, survivors, people that have beaten habits and addiction. And he reached out to me. I guess they heard on Nephilim Death Squad that I mentioned that I was getting off the stuff and trying to live a better life. And it was 4 a.m. when I heard their message, and I was like, I will never be able to come at you and talk to you how it is, at least not today, not year to date, how I'm a business owner and I've grown up 30 years over. No, I can't give you that. But what I can give you is the testimony of a person that's rewiring his brain exactly how you said it. Changing not only the habits, but emotional patterns. And I say emotional patterns because sometimes when I'm driving back from work, like a normal freaking civilian, cars pass by and I'm thinking, and I'm in my thoughts, and I don't know where within 30 minutes, I'm already home. And I don't know how I got here. I don't know when I changed lanes. I don't know when I got off the freeway. So I'm an auto zombie, I would say. And during that process, I'm thinking, okay, well, damn, a beer right now would be nice. I'm trying to deal with my emotions, deal with my problems that I didn't have before, or I did, but I had buried them under my bad habits. So the more that I indulge into, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get home and I'm going to do something proactive. No, I'm going to go and grab my baby and go out for a walk and start rewiring my habits. It does get harder, but how can I tell you? I wake up cognitively, wake up the next day feeling more positive. Like if I've endured something horrible, but I feel stronger, my mind tells me you can. Take it day by day. This is why they say minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. If you're parked in front of that liquor store, you know you're gonna drown yourself with a vodka bottle. Take 10 more minutes and sit in your car 10 more minutes. That's all it takes for you to turn on that car and then leave, because you rewired that habit. Some people are so, and then I was just talking to my wife about this a couple of days ago. She's Latin American woman. She has these traits where she goes, in Spanish it says tienes que tener huevos para hacer algo, which means it's all about balls. If you're going to do something, you got to do it because you have balls. I don't wake up in the morning because I have balls. I don't. I wake up in the morning because I have a sense of direction. First of all, I know what I want. And second, I got to feed these kids. So there's something there that pushes, again, like you said, the programming into the brain, the mindset. I didn't stop drinking because I have the balls to stop drinking. It's not about the balls. It's about wanting, having a sense of direction, changing your habits, rewiring your brain. And the way I'm doing it is with the Bible. So yeah, I just wanted to add on and amplify your message.
No, it's fantastic because you're leading the way again. When you go on your journey, you don't realize that it's not just about you. You're inspiring people. You never thought that you'd be this inspiration to people that don't yet have the critical thinking to say, I need to make the change. They'll lead from you. You're the one. See, I have this saying, the greatest leaders are not the ones with the most followers. The greatest leaders are the ones that create the most leaders.
Boom.
The problem is, not the problem, the result is, you'll never know the leaders that you've created, but your journey will inspire somebody to say, you know what, I want to be like Trebles. If he can do it, I believe I can do it too. He's my rock. And then they do it, and that could pass on to another 5,000 people as the community begins to expand. It's fascinating how it goes on. So there's a couple of things I want to share with you. One of them is very controversial that you will reject. Right, I'm telling you, everyone listening is going to turn around and reject because it goes against what we've always been taught. But the first thing is, if I said to you, what's the most important thing you have in your life, what is it?
My daughters.
Okay, so you got there. I'm going to change your thought. This isn't what you're going to reject. I'm going to change this right now, though. There's something bigger. The most important thing you have in life is time. Because when time is gone, everything's gone. Right?
Yeah.
What you do with your time shows what's most important to you. And that's where a lot of people, I'd say they're underachieve in life because they spend their time on things that aren't impacting them, but growing someone else. Great saying. If your life seems easy, it's because you're walking on someone else's path. If your path is tough, it's because you're forging your way. And most people will invest their time into building someone else's dream by giving up theirs, by sitting and playing games, by not challenging them, by lying in bed all day when they know they should get up and say, you know what, I'm better than this, I'm stronger. So what you do with your time, which is your daughter, shows what's most important, but the most valuable thing you have is time, because what you do with it will determine your legacy.
Wow.
I want to go back to when we were born. And then I'm going to come on to the controversial bit. Where did born superhuman come from? Birth. When your daughters were born, at what point did the doctor turn to either of your daughters and said, okay, are you ready? I'm going to cut the umbilical cord. Let me know when you're ready. Nothing. They just cut that umbilical cord. For the first time since conception, both your daughters, you, your wife, and every listener on here was suddenly on their own. It was all up to them. Now, of course, you have a team around you. You had doctors that were there. Your parents are there to try and support. But ultimately, if the body says, I'm not going, there's nothing they can do. They can put you on a life support machine, give you oxygen, inject, try and get your heart going. But if your system doesn't take over on its own, the moment it's separated from the mother that created the opportunity with the father earlier, they're gone. We are born superhuman, and we take on this amazing impact in life to grow. And think about when you were growing up, Trebles, and the dreams you had and the freedoms or the toughness that you had and the opportunities you thought you didn't have that you're now taking today because you've stepped out of the box. And slowly we're compressed in. That really is why we're born superhuman. And why have we got away from that ability? Why do we no longer have the brilliance of a child to just do? Yeah, we have responsibilities, but our responsibilities often come because we also haven't tapped into continuing the dream. I'm not saying the dream is everything. In other words, we give everything up to go the dream, but we give up the beauty of chasing, and that's when we become tired. That's when we turn to other things to find the fulfillment that we think we need, because we're no longer happy. We're no longer living what we should be, which is the endless potential for us to overcome. Age isn't the limit. And if you look at it, socioeconomic situations are drastically tough, but it's not the limit. If you look at skin color, there's different struggles that come with that. Obviously, we see that, but it's not the limit. All you need is one example of success from the bottom to the top, and it can be done. And then we have to invest ourselves into that. So I want to jump back to the thing that's really controversial now. I'm telling you, you and your listeners, you're going to reject me. When you talk about the struggles you've had with the addictions, everything you're going through, and then I'm going to give you a solution. In life, we don't have choices. There is no choice in life. And people will turn around and say, of course there's choices. You will say, I have a choice. I can drive to that store. I can go and buy that bottle. I can meet my old friends. I can buy what I want. You can have all those things. That's not a choice. See, if a man was beating up on your wife and about to kill her, would you kill him or would you not?
Yeah, out of instinct, I would definitely take matters into my hand.
So is that a choice?
I would think, in my logic, yeah.
In your logic, but it isn't. It's who you are. See, what we don't have is choices. What we do have is character. See, you're fighting your character to establish it to be exactly what you want it to be. And as we grow character, so do the struggles become stronger. There's 3 laws of nature. The first one, whatever you chase runs away. The second one, whatever you fight grows stronger. And the third one, whatever you resist persists. So when you take those three laws, we're living within that everywhere. So now when you go and you sit outside that store and you say, the liquor store, and you go, okay, just take 10 more minutes. That's not a choice. That's your character building. Because eventually it gets to the point where you turn around and go, not doing it. I'm not even going to stop. Your character got stronger. Now, when people say I have choices, it's for two reasons. It's ego-based. Either look at the success I had. Let's talk about your podcasts right here, Paranoi Radio. I chose to create this radio station, and look how great it's doing. Look at what I'm doing. I struggle, but look at me, I've stepped out. That wasn't your choice, but it sounds like it because there's a good ego in there, right? It's about me. But if it went wrong or something else came in that didn't work out, or you brought on a guest and they took down your radio station, you'd turn around and go, well, it's nothing to do with me. It was a bad decision, right? I made a bad choice. The reality is your character would vet people. Your character would decide, do I release this episode or not? My decision on your character would determine what you do. So when people constantly washing back and forth, it's not because they're changing their choice, it's that their character is not set. Once they set their character, it is no longer an option. So if you turn around and said, okay, if someone came in and said, hey, you know what, Trebles, here's some free cocaine, give it to your daughter. Are you going to give it to her?
No.
Not even a choice, right? So if that's not even a choice, why? Because your character is so set, I will never put my daughter in harm of something that could take her down or is definitely going to affect her life. Once we start making that clear in every aspect of our life, now we can't be wavered because we are stronger as the brain-mind influence that nobody can stop me when I really tap into I am. So that no longer becomes an option because my character is set. And when I'm challenged, it doesn't happen.
I have to comment. And this is just because I am a conspiratorial dude. This is what they target. Like you mentioned, the 6-year-olds. Then they target your identity. Again, no character building skills. You can't collect water in LA. It's illegal in California. It's a felony. You can't have cows and roosters and stuff. You get disconnected from the earth. You're disconnected from how to feed yourself, how to go hunting, right? How to make yourself happy, to make others happy. They directly, indirectly, control your time. Tell you when to poop, when to go eat, when to have lunch, right? What time is the right time to have your coffee, go to Starbucks, clock in, clock out, etc. They directly attack psychologically, emotionally, your character. From women to children to males in a household. And when they can't break your character, they put you in a cell. Because I've seen people go down. They don't drink, they don't steal, they don't kill people, but they spoke something out of that doesn't fit the narrative, and they put them in jail. And it's funny, bro. It's funny to see it. And I like to say this a lot on the show. We have Stockholm Syndrome because we go out on our way to chip ourselves with the phone. Where's the phone? I was looking for it. You chip yourself with this, right? You chip your kids with this. It's an extension of your body. You can't live without it. You're building your character off all the ass that you see shaking on TikTok instead of taking 5 seconds of your day to go to the search bar and look for something that's going to actually help you build character. Motivate yourself to do better, to take that decision and not stop at that liquor store or, et cetera, and et cetera. It's huge, huge. What you're saying is very impactful.
And again, I go back to you when you're in this struggle that you're going through. If you tap into who am I? Am I going to let this control me? No, I am superhuman. I was born superhuman. I have the power and ability to turn off the urge because the reason is greater than the moment. And when you can do that, I'm not going to say there won't be challenges. There's going to be challenges. But certainly when you decide who you are and no one's going to waver you away from that for their own benefit. Look, we just went through it with COVID. The vaccine's great for you. You got to do it. You're killing people if you don't take the vaccine. They brainwash people to think, if I don't do it, I'm killing people. You aren't killing someone by not taking the vaccine. And then they got the next one and the next one and all these vaccines that have come out for kids. And I'm not going to turn around and say good or bad. I'm not the scientist or doctor. I personally didn't take the vaccine. That was my decision. Right? But I also didn't feel guilty, but they were guilting people into doing it and then stopping people from going to work and stopping people from traveling. And if you look over in China, in Wuhan, what happened when it came out, they didn't let anyone from Wuhan travel around the rest of China. In fact, China became the strongest economy they've ever had. Yet it started in China. That doesn't make sense. But if you looked at where they allowed them to fly to, those Chinese people from Wuhan were allowed to fly into Italy. And what became the epicenter of death was Italy. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't understand it. There was no protocol. And so they were able to build the fear that then people said, well, I don't want to die. I saw it with my own mother, who's a doctor, taking the shots and getting done because it's going to kill me. She's a doctor. Why? Because then, like you said, we brainwash the character. Then they come out and say, well, it's not necessary. Well, then people say, well, I'm still wearing my mask outside, which we know is bad because it's stopping oxygen getting into your cellular level to feed your body. But they're brainwashed. Then suddenly they're, okay, well, now it's okay. I don't need it anymore. So your character is just going back and forth on someone else's saying. It's really...
They said, sorry for interrupting. They said, whoever's vaccinated, you could take off your masks outside. Again, they penetrated your character. Absolutely.
And what they were trying to do, I believe, was those people that were still wearing it would then be identified as those that didn't take the vaccine. So there was a way to separate and highlight I say the people, I don't call them lemmings, I say the ones that drank the lemonade, and then those that didn't. We need to isolate and find out those that didn't so that we can public shame them. Now, I don't criticize anyone that took it. I'm not anti-people. There was a reason for it. Everyone's different. So if it fits you, go for it. That's your decision, but don't do it because somebody else told you that you must.
I love it. That goes with everything. I went through a little trial early on in my early days with my wife. Her family was trying to indoctrinate us into a religion. And same thing happened. They really came down on me. They had people, they had bishops and other people come over here and talk to me and pray, and they almost harassing me to the point where they couldn't get to my brain, so they got to my wife to get to me. And then that kind of hurt because they were dividing us already. At this point, we're like, okay, we're about to divorce, bro. We're about to break up. I'm heavy drinking again because of this. So it was just like, it was, I called it a spiritual attack. But I think now that you break it down and make it less materialized, it's more of they try to, and I'm saying they as these entities because these people, some of these people are walking AI, just meat sacks. They what they did was penetrate my wife's character, and then they broke her loyalty. Because even my wife, she has her own mind. She doesn't have to do what I do, what I say, or she doesn't have to submit to that because she's her own mind. But she's willingly trying to make me happy by being the best she can. So she was following my path. And then they broke that in. They broke her, right? And they played the game with, look at your daughters. They played with, I'm your mom. You follow me. And so it was like, it's a combination of, it was a cocktail of emotions and poison.
Yeah, it's crazy. Look, what we think is what we are. It's not what we eat. You heard the other thing, what you eat is what you are. No, what we think is what we are, because that will eventually become our go-to. So if I can take you through a little journey, I'd love to give this to your listeners as well. And again, look, you don't have to accept it. This is what I've trained thousands of people with, but it doesn't mean to say you have to accept it. It's a thought that you can say. I look at it and say, I don't tell people how to be. I agree with you. Everyone's their own person. But if you plant the seed, they can dig it up and throw it out, or at the right time, the memory will come back. See, when you hear about Alzheimer's, you hear about, I'm losing my memory. We actually aren't losing our memory. The brain will remember everything we've ever seen, heard, done. What we have is an accessibility issue. So it's in here, and you'll know, because you've walked down the street, you can't remember something. You give up, remember it, and 2 days later, the answer, oh, that was it, 2 days later. You
Yes.
didn't experience it again. So if you didn't experience again and you've forgotten, it would have gone. But no, it's there. What we have is contamination, inflammation within the brain that starts to bring on crossing the blood-brain barrier, gut health, all these things that I talk about in Born Superhuman. But if we allow ourselves to get inflammation and contaminated, and that can be from thoughts, it can be contaminated from food, from air, from what we ingest, or just the environment we're in, there will be side effects or dynamic effects that stop us. So I want you to think of this. This is how you rewire your brain. And it's critical. This is where character, I have the 7 pillars of natural health that cost nothing to do. Number 1 is oxygen. Number 2 is hydration. Number 3 is sleep. Number 4 is nutrition. Number 5 is exercise. Number 6 is mindset. And number 7 is challenges. All those things are critical for us to continue to grow and be healthy and achieve our highest potential that our mindset would take us to. So I want you to imagine you're standing outside this big field. It's got a beautiful white picket fence around it. The grass is high, but in the distance, you see this beautiful snow-capped mountain. And you say, you know what, I want to go closer. So you start walking into this beautiful field, but the more you walk, the taller the grass gets. But I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going. So I keep trudging through and I'm pushing down this grass. And I finally get to the white picket fence. I look up. I can't even see the mountain. I went the wrong way. So you know what? I need to go back and start again. So I walk back along that grass. I come back to the beginning. I look up, I see it, and I go, okay, great. I know where to go now. The problem is I've got a path already that's begun to be forged. This is like our thought into our brain, right? I don't want to go that way. So I start to walk. I go a slightly different way. It's a little tougher. I think I'm getting lost. So I begin to veer back onto that path because it's the easy one to take. I've experienced it. I get there, go, I'm on the wrong path again. Of course, okay, I'll go back. Now I've walked on that path, there and back, 4 paths. So that lane is now created. Then someone else shows up and goes, oh, I see the mountain. That must be the path. So they walk on it as well. It's like someone telling you, hey, just have one more drink. Hey, just do this. Hey, just stay out tonight. Don't go home to your wife. Let's go party. They're now walking on your path that you walked that used to bring you pleasure or you thought was going to lead you to where you want. So then eventually, maybe you've walked 100, 200, 500 times on this path. That's now worn out. And that's where I go without thinking. That's where we say emotion takes us there because emotion is actually thoughtless. It comes up in us and that creates the path we take. So now the only way to get off of that is to walk back to the beginning and put a stop sign up. As soon as I see my foot stepping on that, I consciously tell myself, no. I'm not going there. I know where it's going to end up. It's not going to give me the journey I want. I'm not going that way. And you take the hard path. We talked earlier. When you're on your own path, it's tough, but you go that way. And when you feel like you're veering, you walk back to the beginning because you may not get there straight away. I'm going to walk back. I'm going to keep walking a little bit further. The 10-minute rule, right? Wait 10 minutes. I'm going to walk that little bit further. I'm going to come back and wait. I'm going to walk a little bit further. I know I'm on the right. And we're wearing that path down. But just as importantly, that stop sign is critical when other people try to walk on it. So when they go to walk on it, you'll have that stop sign's there saying, nope, I'm not going to allow you to step on that path because that was my trouble. That was my fault. So I eliminate them from also influencing the thought in my brain. And the more we do this, and you can't do it with everything all at the same time, but you select the one mission that you want to start on. So let's just say it's the alcohol. When it comes up, what's my character? Am I going to let myself down just one more time? I'll just have one more, then I'll give up. I see it with smoking all the time. Yeah. I'll just have one more cigarette and then I'm going to quit. That's not the choice. That's the character being weak enough to say, I'll keep going back. And I made a bad choice today. That's why I say it's ego. It's flopping back and forth because we didn't set. You know what? My name's Trebles. Fucking Trebles Garcia. No one's taking me down. I am my own man. I am my own woman. I am my own destiny, my own power. I have my own dreams. And when you put that stop sign up and you make it solid, there's nobody else that can take you down once you set your character.
I think that was beautiful. That was. It hits home with me, and believe me, it hits home with almost every single person that's going to be listening to this episode. You know why? Because it's easier. I've been saying this lately. I've tried everything, right? You've tried the sex. You've tried being with different people. You've tried all types of different parties. You've tried all types of different lifestyles. You've tried all types of different drugs. You've tried every single flavor of all those tequilas. But have you tried staying sober? Did you put that stop sign? Have you tried taking that other route? It's exactly what you just broke it down again and you made it, made it a lot more simple to understand. And this is why people think it's hard, because by nature, when you're in that struggle moment, by nature, you get tangled up with your emotions, and the first thing you want to do is take the easy way route, the one that you already know where it's going to take you. And you're back into that freaking hamster wheel, bro. Yeah, I hear you. Hey, we are about that mark already. I want the last 10 minutes of this. I want people to know, what is it that you do? What are you providing for everybody? What tools can people reach out to you to gather? And where can people find you?
Yeah, thank you very much. First off, I want to say thank you for gifting me this time. And to every single one of your listeners, thank you for gifting me their time. Because, like I said, time is the most valuable thing you have. And I never want to waste a second of anybody's. If I can't bring an empowerment to your life, then I've actually not succeeded in what my goal is. I've been very fortunate to have suffered a lot, to the point where going from greatness to almost bankruptcy, the deepest valleys also allow you to see the tallest mountains to achieve and climb. And if they go to bornsuperhuman.com, you will find my programs that are there. You'll see books that I've written. I'm about to launch a 6-week course to help people become their own superhuman self again. And when I say again, there was a time where we all thought we were superhuman. Well, we were right. We just hadn't been infected. I also have Born Superhuman on Instagram. Also Dan Metcalfe _official. I'll send you the different links. And then if anybody is suffering with brain to body connection, so if anybody's listening and they have a parent that is aging, that's lost their balance, their independence, or MS, Parkinson's, stroke survivors, TBIs, ataxia, anything like that, I actually have a product that has gifted people back full mobility again. This is by connecting the brain to the body. If I can just really quickly explain how that works. I had a pretty big celebrity here in America, and I had my sports performance gym, and they had been falling a lot. 79 years old. There's a lot of things you don't know, that I did. Obviously, I performed on stage. I was in movies. I've got 40 professional soccer players. I trained through my nonprofit that play professionally around the world. I was asked to be the assistant coach at the LA Galaxy. I've been very, very fortunate. Not good if you like LAFC, but some of my players went and played at LAFC. So if there's a rivalry,
nobody likes LAFC.
Yeah, there you go.
I like the Galaxy too.
Yeah, there you go. So when I started training him, I did what any great trainer would do. If you strengthen your legs, strengthen your hip flexors, strengthen your core, you're going to walk better. Within 2 minutes, I knew I was 100% wrong. And this is really taking the world by storm. If you think back to your daughters, think back when you were a kid, you didn't go to the gym to learn how to walk. It was the brain figuring out the neural pathways through our body, through the motor cortex, the motor neurons, and then the sensory going back to the brain. What happens when we go through a neurological disease or aging, because if you don't use it, you lose it, you begin to lose the ability to move, to stand up, to function. Then you fall a couple of times. When fear kicks into the brain no longer will function freely.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I created this program. It's called Total Balance Company. And it will rewire your brain and give you mobility back by focusing on the most important part of your movement, which is your brain-body connection, rather than build your body. I had people that were 82, they could still leg press 300 pounds, but they would fall every time they walked. It's not muscle strength. It's really about how does the brain connect. So bringing this full circle in here, Trebles, mindset is what feeds the brain. If you have no mindset, the brain won't function outside of its minimal ability to keep us alive. Your character will determine your mindset. What you want becomes your messaging, and what you'll commit to, not even what you want, what you will commit to becomes your messaging. You'll make the sacrifices, you'll get the discipline to then be able to say, I'm not going to walk this path anymore. This is my new life. And it will be better when you can be proud of yourself. Pride is a huge amount, not arrogant pride, self-esteem pride. And so I have totalbalancecompany.com as well, that will, if anybody's suffering, because movement is critical for independent self-esteem, that self-pride, that ability to help others as well as feel great about yourself. And you'll see parents, grandparents, uncles, husbands, wives, as we age, when they lose their ability to move, they also lose that pride and self-belief that life is worth living. We got
Chain reaction.
Yeah.
It's all a combo. Placebo, nocebo. Same thing, guys. But it all comes from character. That is huge. Ladies and gentlemen, please give them a follow. You know what? Do you have a podcast as well? Do you have anything else, content that you're pushing out?
Yeah, I have Born Superhuman. You can find the podcast on YouTube. If you go to bornsuperhuman.com, there'll also be links there directly, obviously, to the podcast. And the way the podcast is set up, the 7 pillars of natural health will also have podcasts specific to those ones. So if you want to learn more about sleep, I've got sleep ones. If you want to learn more about nutrition, we'll have nutrition. If you want mindset or exercise, then you'll be able to find that, because we can't do everything at once, but one step at a time. Can I leave you with one last story? Because I know time.
Yes.
Good. Last one. Went to race the Ironman. And I think everyone would agree. An Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim. Then you bike 112 miles and then you run a marathon back to back to back, right? It's pretty crazy. Anyone that crosses the finish line is a champion. The winner is the first one, but anyone that can do that and cross the finish line is a champion. That's what I thought. Until I stood up in Canada, Lake Okanagan. They play the Canadian national anthem in Penticton. The cannon goes off and about 2,000 athletes all go running into this lake at the same time. I was near the front, and suddenly someone put their hand in the back of my wetsuit, pushed me under the water. I had just run out of breath, and now I'm under the water. I'm trying to come up, and there's these 2,000 people, a wide line, going over me. And I'm fighting to get up, and I couldn't, because when you're swimming, they're kicking, their hands coming in there. I couldn't get up. And at some point, I realized I was going to die. And I gave in. I became at peace. I awakened that this is what's going to happen to me. And I found that peace. And within the peace, I suddenly saw this little gap between some people a little ways away. So I started swimming towards it, not panicking. I'm like, there's my exit. That's my path. But as soon as I broke the water, I went, and I'm breathing, and I'm coughing, and I can't do anything. And I'm like, that's it, I'm done, I can't do this, it's over. The fear struck into me, the exhaustion. And I sat in the water for probably 5 minutes. Then I thought, hang on, Dan, you've done all the training, you've flown up here, you've done all the preparation you possibly could. Just do one stroke at a time. So I started swimming, and then I started swimming faster. And then I began to feel good. And then I got onto people's feet, because you can draft in water the same as you can in a bike or in a car. And then I'm passing and I'm jumping more. And I had a great swim. I got out, I got on the bike. I had a great bike, but I saw people crash. I saw bloodied faces. I saw broken bones as I'm going by. Then I get onto the run. I'd never run a marathon in my life. I'd done training, but I had a collapsed arch in my foot. So I'd never actually run a marathon. I took off. I had a great run. Everything was fantastic, but I'm a mile from the line, and this guy that's running next to me suddenly seizes up and collapses over. His body has gone into a complete cramp. Everything's gone. And I'm shouting at people, please come and help him, because I didn't want to stop. I didn't know if I stopped and helped him, what would happen to me? Would I do the same thing? My body would seize up. People ran out. I felt good running on because I knew he was getting help. I crossed the finish line, had a great race. 30% of people that finish the Ironman will go to the medical tent from a depletion in the body. I help people go there. I stayed till the last person crossed the line. I jumped on my bike. I biked back to the hotel. It was an incredible experience. But this is what I
Wow.
really learnt. This is what I learned. Anyone that was willing to step over the start line, not knowing the journey ahead, was a champion. It's not everyone that crosses the finish line, because some won't. I saw people that had done as much training as I had, may have been a better athlete than I was, not finish. We don't know the journey ahead in life. We don't know what we're going to have to face. But if you're not willing to step over the start line, you will be a spectator in your whole life, because there's players and there's spectators. Who do you want to be? Because spectators will take their last breath knowing they never experienced what they were born to. But players will step over the start line. They may not achieve the goal, but where they'll go is part of their destiny, because we're born superhuman to achieve. So if we look at it, anybody listening to this podcast, say everybody that listens to all your podcasts, that see you as the example of willing to man up and say, this is not the life I want. I'm willing to face the struggle. I love my family. I love my daughters. I was sacrificed for them. That started the day you put the bottle down and said, I'm going to step over this start line. I don't know what's ahead of me, but I'll develop the character to be everything I am born to be, and be the example that allows my daughters and my wife to be everything they are born to be too. So step over the start line and trust that your character will be developed when you say no to the things that aren't serving you.
Born superhuman. Whew. That was a bomb. That was an amazing way to exit. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check them out at the description of this episode. Dan, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. I want to thank you because you didn't only bring me wisdom. I'm very happy that you reached out. I'm very happy that I finally stopped overlooking at those emails. I'm very happy that you're here. I'm very thankful that you're here. And guys, make sure you check him out. Check out his products. Check out his information. Check him out on Instagram, and click on the links. Engage with him. The last thing I am going to ask from you guys is do not forget to drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, because that allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy doing it. Thank you. That was good.